Can Apple TV Plus live up to the hype?
Is Telstra's Xbox All Access deal good value?
And why is Foxtel only now introducing a customer loyalty scheme? Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market.
Welcome to Vertical Hold, Behind the Tech News, where we talk to Australia's leading technology journalists to get the stories behind the news of the week. I'm Alex Kidman, and I'm joined, as always, by Adam Turner, a man who thought that AirPod Pros were like Mars pods and ate a whole bag full, only to discover that they're significantly less digestible. Adam, do they still do noise cancelling once you've ingested them?
I'll let you know in a day or two.
Well, while we wait for those results, it's been a big week in tech news and especially in streaming. So to talk everything streaming and couch potato related, we're joined once again by Steve Malk from TV Black Box. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Alex, Adam, hello. Look, I'm very pleased to take a couple of those AirPods once you have returned them to the world.
You can have them at a significant discount.
You're a much, much braver man than I am, Steve.
Well, they go in your ears.
And look, speaking of brave men, a little later, I'll be chatting to Alex Walker from Kotaku, because really what this show needs is more people called Alex. That's just science. Specifically, we'll be diving into the value proposition of Telstra's new Xbox All Access deal. But first, Apple is about to unveil its magical and revolutionary take on streaming TV via Apple TV Plus. Steve, you're a man with his finger on the pulse of TV. Can Apple win, as it so often has, by being late to market?
Well, look, it's going to be an interesting one for Apple TV Plus because they are, you're right, behind the 8 ball to start with. They're not first to market on this. They are 11th, 9th to market.
They are pretty much dead last to market.
Yeah, it's down the track. And to that end, they get to have all of the advantages of everyone has carved the path, so they know where to go. The big challenge for Apple is, will we be as interested in a Jason Momoa sci-fi drama or a Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon breakfast TV drama as they're suggesting we will be?
I'm presuming Jason Momoa takes his shirt off at some point, because that's usually when people get interested.
Contractually obligated.
I think it's interesting that they're taking a mixed strategy to the way they're releasing their content. In one camp, you've got your HBO Game of Thrones style, where you drop one episode every week, and that keeps people coming back and keeps people talking about it. In the other camp, you've got your Netflix original, drop the entire series on one day. Apple TV Plus is doing a mix of both. With the big headline ones, with Morning Wars and with it's dropping one episode a week for 8 or 10 weeks. And I think that's smart, because it'll help them build up that word of mouth that every week, did you see the last episode of, and that those recap posts that you see every Monday, which of course they can never do about, we'll say a series on Netflix gets one story, but you can't talk about it every week. So I think it's smart that they've done that. I don't know if that'll be enough, but I think it's a smart strategy to try, because they've got to build momentum and word of mouth. That's the problem. No, these shows come from nothing. It's not like they've got a fan base from somewhere else. It's not like they're based on cartoons or whatever. I've got no reason to have any interest in any of these shows until someone I know says, hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah, and they also face what I would offer is a sizable hurdle, and that is that they are launching with a handful of titles. It's not a Netflix, which comes with 11 billion. When Stan launched, it didn't have everything, but it had a big library. Apple TV Plus lands with an originals library of about 6, and that's it.
That's it. It's an original library of 6, and no sudden episodes of I Love Lucy or something.
I'd expect that there will be things appear, and absolutely they're talking about other originals being added each month. However, that's still, if you just lean on originals through Apple TV Plus, which is their plan, they're not going out and looking for a series to buy in and do anything just yet. It means that we're going to have, come December, maybe 12 series on the go on Apple TV Plus versus that's what Netflix dropped last week.
Yeah. Now, it would be It's interesting that they seem to have said it's all new content because there's a
Mm,
lot to be said for picking up the rights to something like Friends or a Seinfeld and making that one of the cornerstones, making that the thing you fall back on. Oh, there's nothing new. I'll watch one of them. That
yes.
stuff's really gold. But because everyone knows it's valuable, it's all tied up. I think you'd struggle to find any show like that that hasn't been locked in by a Stan or a Netflix or a somebody.
And if you notice, there was lots of positioning that took place around who has Friends, who has
Yeah,
Seinfeld
yeah.
in just the last sort of couple of months. Now, the stuff they are delivering, I'm going to say, sounds great. I mean, some of their documentary stuff alone is going to be pretty amazing. The Elephant Queen looks to be a phenomenal, documentary of an African elephant matriarch and how she protects her tribe. There's an excellent documentary for all mankind. It's not a documentary; it's a drama series. Sorry, that talks about what happens if the space race never ended and how that plays in. And of course, the big ticket items that we talked about before: Morning Wars, which is what it's called here. It's the morning show, otherwise. C, which is the Jason Momoa sci-fi thing, and then Dickinson, about the young poet Emily Dickinson. Now, if you're into that, amazing, you'll be stoked. I'm definitely going to watch Morning Wars. The problem is twofold for Apple. When they are playing in this television space, you have to not give deference to the critics, but you have to give them access to be able to preview and talk about stuff. Now, they did it almost under pressure to a very select group. And that includes people like Alan Sepinwall, who writes for Rolling Stone, and he is, for mine, the best going around. And his review of some of the stuff that's coming wasn't glowing.
Yeah, there've been a few reviews come out in the last few days, and C especially has taken a bit of a caning.
Mm. And this is a difficult thing when you're a tech expert, when you're someone that knows or thinks you know how to be an executive in a technical land. Moving into a creative space like television is not just as simple as here is a lot of money, go and solve the problem, or let's just give them the same thing with Malibu. Stacey has a new hat. It can't be that. It has to be creative, new, groundbreaking. And look, God bless Oprah Winfrey. Her bringing her book club to Apple as a TV show is a great move, though that's a very definite market segment. That said, I mean, what's Apple's market share around the world right now?
Not what it used to be.
It's not, but it's still, a serious double figure split,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
gives that entire market access to this content immediately from Friday, Saturday.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's not perhaps a case where Apple has to win, where they have to beat your Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or Stan or such. It's about here's the TV service that we offer. But we also do music, we do apps. By the way, you should buy a laptop, maybe a very high priced phone, the AirPods Pro. They've got all these other plays in market. So maybe going small and boutique is the way to get noticed, rather than having those thousands of titles.
It's not Apple style though to go small and boutique though, is it? It's not the way
No.
Jobs would have done it.
And it's not at launch. I mean, it's a great way to sort of slide into the market, sort of on the down low, but that's never been Apple's style.
No.
So it's an interesting play to do it this way. Look, I will offer that if we were having this conversation in October, November 2020, we should be looking at a markedly different Apple TV Plus library. What we're seeing at launch is underwhelming.
Well, for a start, if we were looking at it in a year's time, an awful lot more people are going to be paying for it.
Yes, well, that's it. The fact that, you buy a new, iPad, phone or laptop, and you get a free 12-month subscription.
Which means they can brag about how many millions of people they have watching it and subscribing for it when a dozen of them have actually paid for it.
Bingo. It is, U2's Songs of the Innocents or whatever it was all over again, where all of a sudden people will be complaining, how do I get this off my device?
Well, presumably it's not actually downloading episodes to your device. That would be
no, that's right.
Particularly calamitous for those smaller, 16 or 32 gig older Apple devices. That'd be horrible.
It does, however, ask the question, though, how, when we look at it, I mean, I get on an Apple TV that is connected to a big screen television, that would be a streamed proposition, and I'd expect it will be the same for your iPad, iPod, iPhone and MacBook. However, if I want to watch the next episode of Morning Wars and I'm on the plane tomorrow, can I download it? How hard is
Yes,
that?
they
What's the
do have an
expiry?
offline. They do have an
Mm.
offline mode. I'm not sure about all the details about how long things stay there for, but they do. It's a family subscription. Up to 6 people can watch
Yes.
at once, and you can download content for offline.
I
Which
mean,
makes a lot of sense because Apple
yes.
is, if nothing else, all about control
Yes.
and having control of all of these original series and being able to say, yes, you can have that on that device because we know what that device is. We can control the DRM with
Yes.
the Apple Iron Fist wrapped in the velvet glove.
But here's an interesting one. The Apple TV Plus app is available on the Fire TV stick from Amazon.
Of course it
That's
is.
a really interesting one. And that follows on from them introducing, letting you listen to Amazon music subscriptions on the HomePod. So Apple has clearly looked around and gone, well, my enemy's enemy is my friend. Let's get into bed with Amazon. And they're the same thing looking at Netflix and looking at the others. But technically, Amazon's also a competitor with Amazon Prime Video. So it's a very different strategy for Apple rather than being able to throw its weight around. It's having to play nicely with others. It's having to share. It's having to let other hardware into its ecosystem.
I think it's the same strategy, actually. Because if you look at Amazon, TV is not what they're about. They're about selling your soap powder. The TV thing comes in with the Prime shipping, and it's just that incentive to have it. With Apple, the TV thing comes in because they don't want people to move away from iPhones and iPads and MacBooks. It's exactly the same strategy. It makes a lot of sense.
Whereas for Netflix, TV's their bread and butter, yeah.
I tell you what, we won't be seeing at the Emmys next year, and that is any of these shows being nominated for awards, bar maybe their documentary content. I mean, it's still a great unknown is the problem because even the previews that were delivered weren't delivered via Apple TV Plus. You know, it was delivered via another mechanism. So while Disney Plus have been very, I would say, smart in load testing and even market testing their product in Europe before it launches in a couple of weeks. We haven't seen that from Apple. I'm sure they've done it on the down low with some people, but nothing like the size and expanse that we've seen out of Disney. And this could work really well, or this could work horrifically for Apple.
You think it could be another Optus EPL World Cup disaster? I think Apple would be better prepared than that.
You would hope so, right? They've got the infrastructure to support it, and this is where, as a tech company, it is all ticks, and they should be prepared for it. The thing that plays against them is everyone's already from even just the previews, and this is where we get into a horrible situation with culture when all of the critics start to go, oh, look, they're not great. All of a sudden, everyone that's interested in TV has a critic that they trust. And if their critic has said this, then they instantly are going into it as a generalization on that back foot of, oh, I'm not expecting big things from this. They may be pleasantly surprised. We all may be. But I'm going to offer you that the stuff that I've seen about a number of these big titles doesn't suggest there's a lot to be buoyant about to start with.
So I'm at the launch, or pre-launch really, of Telstra's tie-up with Microsoft for what it's calling Xbox All Access. And I'm chatting with Alex Walker from Kotaku Australia. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be back.
It's always good when we get an Alex on Alex interview happening. So Xbox All Access, what is it?
So the simplest answer is it's basically a hardware subscription for consoles. It's a tie-in exclusively with Telstra and Microsoft, and it's launching in Australia, the UK, and the United States, although in the UK and the US it's obviously going through different vendors. And when it launches, people will be able to effectively buy, for no upfront cost, an Xbox, either Xbox One S or Xbox One X, with the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription for a certain amount per month. Now, $27 a month for the base model and $38 a month for the Xbox One X. And both of those include the Xbox Game Pass.
And that's a 24-month plan for essentially existing Telstra postpaid customers, although there's a pretty strong push towards Telstra broadband customers for obvious reasons.
Yeah, there was a few questions, all from Alex, funnily enough, in the briefing about whether there will be any expansion of data caps or things for people on 5G, because obviously Telstra are trying to push 5G a lot, but in a world where we're seeing a lot of AAA games hit, 100 gig, there are a couple that were coming out this week that will say you need 150 gig on your hard drive just for one game, and Telstra were quite adamant that 5G is not going to effectively replace fixed line broadband. You're still going to need your NBN, your HFC, your ADSL2, God forbid, connection to really sustain the downloads for, particularly in October or November situation where all the big games are coming out.
So it equates out to about a 400 and change odd dollar value in terms of the Microsoft part of the equation, what you'd pay for that Game Pass plus Gold and so on, which means the One S is somewhere over around $250. The One X is a fair bit more over 24 months. Is it good value? I mean, is it something that you think people should jump at?
I think around Black Friday and Boxing Day in particular, where you see a lot of console bundles become very cheap, I think you can actually get better deal if you're prepared to pay more of an upfront cost. Now, the reason for that is, let's take like the Xbox One S. For the last couple of years, that's been going for about $250, and you can grab it with, 2 or 3 games. That will probably be about $200 this year. Or the new Xbox console, which is just basically the Xbox One S without a hard drive, that'll be around the $199 mark. So if you just get that as a console, let's ignore like anything else that comes with it, and then you go, okay, I want to have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on the side. You can get Xbox Game Pass as like a $1 deal for some promotional materials. You can
That's
get it.
Relatively limited time, though. It's not $1 a month forever.
No, it's not forever, but it's, for the first month, and then you can pay like sort of depending, about $15 a month if you want it across PC, console. And if you're just playing on console, then you can pay a cheaper version, which just gets you, so the $10 a month. And that's kind of the understated thing that wasn't a part of this whole bundle, is somebody walking into Telstra and walking out with hardware, they're getting the ultimate version of Xbox Game Pass. So they're getting what's available for Xbox Game Pass on PC as well as console. You're not just getting the console deal. Now, the advantage there is, okay, if you've got a gaming PC, cool, that means things like The Outer Worlds, which just came out the day that we're doing this podcast, fantastic. You can play that on any platform. But if you don't, and you just want the console deal, then you're kind of paying a little bit more than you need to. And when you buy the hardware up front, you can make that choice. So you can actually save quite a bit more money by going the other route.
This feels like a slightly old school bundling deal in a weird way. I mean, the last time I can remember someone offering an Xbox, it was literally the original Xbox with a feature phone kind of deal. Do you think other carriers are likely to jump on board? Will we see, Optus with PlayStation or Vodafone with Switches to give away?
I think Optus would make more sense with a mobile phone and a 5G plan, because Optus's parent company, Singtel, they do quite a lot of work around esports in Singapore. Singtel actually forced Optus to get behind some Dota 2 tournaments last year in Australia, and Singtel are always pushing esports from a Singapore and Southeast Asian region. So it makes sense when 5G fully launches on phones for them that they will do more sort of gaming plans and bundles around. I mean, we will be looking at like 2021 at that stage. 2020 is a bit early considering how long it takes 5G to get coverage. But from their perspective, I would expect it to be mobile. Vodafone is a bit of a different question. They do have a lot of different gaming touch points in different parts of the world. Not so much in Australia, but Vodafone in the UK have a lot of partnerships with Gfinity. Obviously, Gfinity Australia closed recently, but Gfinity in the UK has been around for quite a long time and is quite successful. Vodafone New Zealand also have a lot of sponsorships and are very heavily into the gaming scene there, much more than even Telstra or Optus are here. So I would expect New Zealanders to get some particular deals and promotions.
And actually, bringing the 2021 or 2020-2021 timeframe into mind, I guess the other side of this, though, is we know the next Xbox is coming. Does it make sense to sign up for 24 months for this generation system?
Well, they did mention during the briefing that there were going to be some upgrade paths. Now, what are those upgrade paths? Because part of that answer also went out and said, you can pay out the cost of the plan, which is not an upgrade path. You're just eating the cost of something you could have gotten for cheaper and then getting on a plan again. I think ideally, to make this stick, having somebody on a plan now would be actually quite a good deal, because any plans that come out for the Xbox One, let's call it 720 or Xbox 2 or whatever you want it to be, they're going to be much higher. And I think that's what Microsoft is actually looking at hardware subscriptions, because the cost of all of the, and PlayStation as well, they're all on the new 7nm hardware for AMD. So the silicon's a bit more expensive. It's a bit harder to fabricate than, what's in the Xbox One and what's in the PlayStation now, because again, all comes from AMD, all very old silicon, so it's much cheaper and much easier to manufacture these days. It's going to be harder to get that out at volume. So the price of these new consoles is going to be quite high, and having a low upfront hardware subscription is a lot more of a viable deal, especially if you know from an Australian perspective that your console's probably not going to be priced at $499 and it's probably going to be over 600, maybe close to 700 or 800.
And I suppose if you haven't jumped towards an Xbox yet, you're leaving it quite late in the generation. Maybe you don't care so much. Maybe you're just coming into that more kind of family experience that they're trying to push this whole thing towards.
Well, that's the thing as well, right? Because PlayStation this generation have been the ones that have had the console exclusives that sell consoles. The other ones are Nintendo, which is why the Switch has done so well, because Nintendo always have that strong sense of identity. Xbox has been busy buying up a lot of studios to add to their first-party roster, but the fruits of those efforts have come quite late. It takes a while to make it a triple A game, especially a game that's designed to sell consoles, to move hardware. So Halo Infinite is a good example of that, sort of a lot of retooling and a lot of spinning up within 343 Industries to build that up. That's not going to be ready until the Xbox 2 or whatever it is. Other things like Obsidian, like they were working on the Outer Worlds for a while, but Obsidian is a first-party Microsoft studio now, so their next projects are going to come through, and it will be a year or two before Microsoft has a strong argument to say, okay, here is our first-party exclusives that you just want to buy in for Xbox. Their bigger play is really the Xbox Game Pass, and it's going to be when those new consoles come out. Usually it'd be like the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation. It's about $649 if you wanted to buy a bundle with a couple of games. What games did you want? Back then it was like Sunset Overdrive, which was fun, but like kind of not like a Halo, not like a Zelda.
It wasn't a must-have kind of thing.
No, and PlayStation didn't have a lot at the launch either. So Xbox Game Pass changes that. It says you can buy one of these consoles and go play 200 games. Oh, you were playing, say, The Outer Worlds like last year. Go see what it runs at like 8K or at like 4K 60 frames a second or something like that. Or how it's souped up with Cyberpunk. Like there's a whole range of games that are going to be available for the next generation on Xbox. Microsoft have got the advantage here because PlayStation have got PlayStation Now, but they don't have it in Australia. So having that from launch is going to change the buying proposition a lot. And it's going to make it very hard, I think, at this stage, not to go Xbox over PlayStation.
So, Steve, it seems that every man and his dog has to have a loyalty program these days, and Foxtel has finally jumped on board with a loyalty program. What are they offering, and how does it stack up?
Well, look, it's not a bad idea, I have to say. If you are Foxtel and you want to make sure that your customers hang around, give them some incentive. And what better incentive than to make it based on the number of years that you've been a customer? So Foxtel First is a tenure-based customer loyalty or rewards program that gives you benefits that increase for the number of years that you've been a customer. Now, there is a massive asterisk, as we would expect, gentlemen, and that is that it's the number of years you've been a customer when you're a residential customer with a set-top box. No Foxtel Now or Go or whatever we're up to. And if you access Foxtel through Telstra, bam, bam.
Yeah. Now, so that's interesting you mentioned Telstra because they've also jumped on the loyalty bandwagon, but their one's the other way around. I think,
Yes.
Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, their one's about how much you spend with them each month, not how many years you've been with them.
It's a bit of both. So when they launched it, if you were a longer term customer, you got a certain quantity of effective bonus points as a result.
Yes.
But then it comes down to how much you're spending with them. Although they've been a lot more upfront about what you can get for your Telstra points. Whereas to my reading of it, the Foxtel First deal, the offering there, aside from explaining what the tiers were in terms of years, it felt a little bit vague. Is there detail there that I'm missing, Steve?
Yeah, no, it feels like they've gone, hey, this is a great idea. Let everybody know about it. We've launched it and we'll work the detail out as we go. That's not a great start. And also when some of the rewards are more entries into a competition to give you a unique experience. For example, you might be a fan of the Great Australian Bake Off, and you have the opportunity to win a private dining experience with Matt Moran, who's one of the judges, at his restaurant with you and 10 of your friends, including a tour of the kitchen and garden. Now, that's amazing. However, it's not like, I'm a 15 years plus customer, so I'm a diamond level, which is what they call it. I get a chance to get that or even bid for that. It's no, you get 5 entries versus, say, Molk, who's got a bronze status and he only gets 1.
Yeah, I don't think that model's really going to impress some people.
No, there needs to, and look, it's not just these experiences. They are talking about that there is viewing benefits, i.e., they will give you exclusive on-demand stuff or free Foxtel movie, on-demand vouchers. They are looking at offering more value and even discounts to customers based on your tier level. I know, unprecedented. The thing that they give you when you say you want to leave. They also are talking about saying, well, the longer you've been around, not unlike Telstra's, customer service thing that they offer in their loyalty program, they're going to offer you a similar kind of thing within their, Foxtel First program. The longer you've been around, we can offer you this kind of in-home setup or that kind of thing.
But surely the longer you've been around, you don't need the in-home setup unless something's broken, and they should be fixing that already. I don't get how that's an incentive. At least for Telstra, they might give you a new thing. You might get a new phone or a computer or a different service.
Or a new Telstra TV or something. That's right. Well, look, we don't know what the IQ5 is going to look like, and that might mean someone has to come into your house and plug it into your wrist. I don't know. I'm sure they would want to from a security point of view. There's lots that's up in the air, and and I know we're not talking about this, couple it with the detail of HBO Max that has come out in the last couple of days, and the only real acknowledgement about how that fits in Australia is that HBO are proud partners with Foxtel.
All right, well, give us the executive summary on what does HBO Max actually mean, and therefore what may it mean for Australia.
It's a dedicated streaming service that HBO are absolutely trumpeting. There will be a whole bunch of made for HBO Max content that is going, and it's significant. Like, it wasn't 1 or 2 titles; it was a whole bunch. They are throwing money at this, to my mind, to ostensibly replace HBO as a cable service and make it all about streaming, because they know the stats as much as anyone else around, cord cutting and how people are accessing their content. It is going a big push into Europe, a big push into London. As I said, it's not coming to Australia yet.
But if it did, Foxtel would be screwed.
Well, at first dig, I'd say it's a partner opportunity. It might be that you can get HBO Max and it might be called Foxtel Max or something. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all hypothesis. But as that agreement between HBO and Foxtel inevitably becomes more and more expensive, Foxtel will have to review that and go, this is what we can and can't afford in it. And I can't see, with the billions they are throwing at sport, that they will be able to justify an increased spend every 3 to 5 years on this relationship when HBO can say, look, we're actually not interested in re-signing with you because we can do it ourselves.
But that being said, and leaving sport aside, because I think the regular listeners know what my view on sport is, if you take HBO out of the equation, what does Foxtel have left? I mean, Disney's going. If HBO goes...
Some of it. Some of Disney is going.
But my point is, what's the sales proposition outside of sport for Foxtel without HBO? Because that's definitely the jewel in their non-sports crown, right?
Yeah, and look, they have been doing a great job over the past 5 to 10 of positioning themselves as the home of premium Australian drama as well. Original content that they make themselves.
Which is highly laudable.
Sure. And yes, 56 actor nominations themselves. Thanks very much. And, of course, some great lifestyle content that they're commissioning and running themselves. And Praise the Demons, a new series of Real Housewives of Melbourne coming next year. So they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. If I was to think longer term, can that be maintained with the current market pressures and stuff? Well, if Foxtel... What are we up to? Foxtel Play or Go? Which is the streaming service?
I don't know. What day is it again?
It's now called Go, I believe.
Thank you. So if Foxtel Go became the premium primary way that we accessed Foxtel, they could still make all of these things and deliver them via their streamed service instead of, the best money. There's obviously tons of bang for buck in an IQ, right? We get that. but they are an expensive thing to have sitting in someone's house that could break. If we can put everything on servers in files that you stream when you sign up and pay us money, that's a heaps better value proposition for the business moving forward.
But then you don't get that Foxtel First benefit because the IP-only customers don't get Foxtel First.
I would suggest that when that happens, Foxtel First transforms pretty significantly.
Well, that's just about it for another episode of Vertical Hold, which means it's time to thank our guests. Thanks to Steve for joining us in the virtual Vertical Hold studio. Now, Steve, if folks want to find you online and on social media, where should they look?
They can catch me personally at Steve Malk on just about everything. And if you wanted to hear us, catch us on the TV Black Box podcast in your podcast catcher, or you can even listen to it online as you read things with your human eyes at tvblackbox.com.au.
So if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at DippyZuka, DIPPIZUKA.
And they can find your fabulous writing work at
Kotaku Australia, which is www.kotaku.com.au.
And of course, you can catch up with us on Twitter at VerticalHoldAU or via the Vertical Hold Facebook page.
Like we said, it's Tell a Friend month here at Vertical Hold, so grab someone you know who's interested in tech. Maybe they want to know about Apple TV Plus. Maybe they're keen on Foxtel and HBO. Tell them about the podcast and help spread the good word. Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market.
Is there a Vertical Hold Plus kind of rewards program for me?
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Premium experience. You can have dinner with Alex. He'll cook for you. Then he'll drive you to emergency.
Can I change my name to Alex?
That's only for
Diamond tier.
premium.
Diamond
that's
tier.
Diamond
That's
tier.
right.